Hook. You ever have one of those moments where life throws you a challenge so absurd, so unbelievably petty, that you almost think you're being pranked? Well, imagine this. You come home after a long shift serving your community, only to find your driveway blockade or broken bar not by strangers, not by vandals, but by the very people who claim to keep order in your neighborhood of the home. And all this, over a $79 fine. But here's the twist: a broken bar. They didn't realize I wasn't just another homeowner. I was the chief of police. And what happened next? Well, a broken bar. Let's just say this story isn't about revenge. It's about respect, resilience, and standing up for what's right. It started with a letter, plain envelope, post stamp. Nothing unusual. I'd gotten a couple of notices before: real grass too high, trash cans out for a day too long, the usual picky stuff. But this one was different. The letter claimed I owed $79 for unauthorized decorative lights. Apparently, the string of solar lights I had along my walkway didn't meet their uniform aesthetic standards. Now, $79 wasn't going to break me, but the principle of the idea that they could fine me for something so harmless, something that actually helped my elderly neighbor see at night, well, it just hit me wrong. I decided not to pay it right away. Instead, I sent a letter asking for clarification and a hearing. I figured we'd talk it out, neighbor to neighbor. That's what community was supposed to mean. But a week later, I came home from a 14-hour shift, exhausted, ready to collapse into bed. And what do I see? A pickup truck and a sedan, both with little HOA security magnets slapped on the side, blocking my driveway. Two guys in reflective vests leaned against the hood, arms crossed like they were guarding Fort Knox. One of them, a middle-aged man with mirrored sunglasses at night, mind you, called out, "Driveway's off limits until you settled your fine." I laughed. I honestly thought it was a joke. "You're kidding me, right? You're blocking my house over $79? His face didn't flinch. "Rules are rules." Behind me, my neighbor Mrs. Jenkins, who uses a walker, was struggling to make it up her own path. She looked at me with worry, whispering, "This isn't right. They did this to the Andersons last month too." Something in me tightened. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about the people who lived here, people who didn't have the power to fight back. I didn't flash my badge, not yet. I wanted to see how far they'd go. And sure enough, one of them actually reached into his vest and pulled out a clamp like they were going to boot my car if I tried parking on the street. That's when I realized, this wasn't about order. It was about control. And I wasn't about to let them control me or my neighbors. The next morning, I walked out in full uniform. I don't always wear it home, but that day, something told me it was necessary. As I approached my driveway, the same two enforcers were waiting. Only this time, there was a third, a clipboard in hand, clearly the supervisor. "Sir," the clipboard man began, "until your fine is paid, your access is restricted. Continued non-compliance may result in additional action." I let the silence hang for a second. Then I pulled out my badge, held it at chest level, and said calmly, "Chief of Police, County Division." "Care to repeat that last part?" The man's mouth opened, then shut again like a fish gasping for air. The other two stepped back, suddenly unsure of themselves. "Blocking driveways, harassment, impersonating authority, that's not enforcement. That's intimidation, and I don't tolerate intimidation in my community." The power shifted instantly. Neighbors peeked through blinds, some even stepped outside. Mrs. Jenkins called out, "Tell them, Chief." And for the first time, the so-called cops looked small. I didn't arrest them. I could have, but that wasn't the lesson. Instead, I made some calls, real ones. The city attorney, code enforcement, even the mayor's office. Within days, the HOA's board was under investigation for misuse of funds and abuse of power. Their security team was dissolved, and those $79 fines wiped clean for half the neighborhood. But the most powerful moment came a week later. The community gathered in the park. People I barely knew came up, shaking my hand, thanking me for standing up when they couldn't. I told them the truth. "I'm not here as your chief of police. I'm here as your neighbor. Titles don't matter. What matters is that we look out for each other, that we stand up when something isn't right, and no matter how small." And from that day forward, things changed. Not overnight, not perfectly, but enough. enough for people to breathe a little easier in their own homes. Final message. So, what's the takeaway here? Life isn't always about the big battles. Sometimes, it's the small fights or the $79 fines, the petty rules, the blocked driveways that test our courage the most. And when we chose to stand up, not just for ourselves but for the people around us, that's when true community is built. Because at the end of the day, authority isn't about power, it's about responsibility. And that a broken bar is something no HOA can ever take away.